What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome to Leafs Digest. We're back again, breaking down some more pre-playoff stuff again about the Leafs here. Some exciting news over the past couple of days. Yesterday, we obviously broke down Jack Campbell being officially announced the starter for Game 1, but there's more news coming out. Guys are returning back to the lineup. Guys we haven't seen are ready to go, and it's getting exciting. We're about 3 days away from the first playoff game, the first time the Leafs have played against the Montreal Canadiens in a playoff series since 1979, dating all the way back then. I know that our parents are going to be fired up about that. Uncles, grandparents, they're going to love that rivalry. Not so much as in our wheelhouse. We haven't got to see that over our lifetime, but still very exciting, a huge rival for us. So let's jump right into it. Couple of big announcements. Kristen Shilton of TSN, beat reporter for the Leafs, tweeted out the other day the new lineups as seen in practice the other day for the first time. So I'm going to pull them up on the Leafs Digest screen here. Our first lines, I'm just going to read them out to you guys, and Josh and I will break them down here. So first line, Hyman, Matthews, Marner. Second, Foligno, Tavares, Nylander. Third, Mikheyev, Nash, Kerfoot. Fourth, Thornton, Spezza, Simmons. And then going on to our D, we got Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hall, Dermott, Sandin, and then starting in net, obviously, Jack Campbell, Freddie Anderson, and then David Riddick coming in third. Some of the extras, Alex Galchenyuk, Pierre Engvall, Adam Brooks, Scott Sabrin, Mac Hollowell, and Dennis Malgin. And then, as of when this was tweeted, Zach Bogosian was still skating in the red practice jersey, but today he was cleared to play. So Zach Bogosian will be in the lineup come night one. I don't know, Goody, you want to jump into the D first with Zach Bogosian being back here. The top 6 D as listed in this tweet, Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hall, Dermott, Sandin. Who do you see Zach Bogosian replacing in this lineup?
Yeah, well, let's just get to that immediately because I think everyone's got the same answer. Might be reluctant to say it, but I think Travis Dermott should sit. Sandin's been just too good. And when you factor in that him and Dermott are quite similar players where they're great puck movers. They're a little bit undersized, but still physical. They have a little bit of an edge to them. Good skaters. So overall, I see a lot of similarities. I think I just kind of side with Sandin because he's younger, to be completely honest. But still, I like the way Sandin's playing right now. You can tell he's confident. Dermott at times has been a little bit on edge, even though I think he had an underrated game to end the season. I think Dermott's still not in the best headspace to be playing there in the bottom few, especially when you look at what he was doing last year and the load he was expected to carry. He got a lot more credit for what he did with little expectation versus this year. The bet on yourself year hasn't panned out. I want to go with the young kid, and then Bogosian coming back. That's huge because you can offset that smaller size rather than having Dermott and him playing together in Sandin. You can have Sandin and Bogosian playing side by side. There you go. That's a little bit more size to compensate.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page as you here. That top 4 isn't changing at all. Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hall, they're not moving. It is really a competition essentially between Dermott and Sandin as to who stays and who comes out of that lineup. I would think that Sandin is going to be an integral piece to this playoff run. I honestly have something I'm predicting is that Sandin is going to play a very, very important factor for the Leafs down this playoff run because I think he's a young guy that people aren't really going to have that much of a read on. Most teams in the NHL have not played against him or have not seen him yet. The teams in the North Division have at least got some kind of sniff, but he's a bit of a wild card to them. They don't know what to expect, and having him play lower down in that lineup and like that 5 or 6 spot, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a really, really good spot for him because it's going to bring that third D pairing up, and then playing alongside someone like Zach Bogosian is just way more experience in the league to be combined there. Dermott Sandin would be an okay D pair, but to be able to replace one of those guys with someone with a lot more experience and someone who won a Stanley Cup last year with the Tampa Bay Lightning and knows their role and knows exactly how they fit into this lineup, I think is a very, very important thing. And I just think Sandin is a better player overall, and I think he's definitely playing better than Travis Dermott right now. Another thing to just tease kind of as a video that will be coming out tomorrow on Tuesday is that Rasmus Sandin in practice has been slotting in on that first power play unit as the defenseman. And if you are seeing first power play unit minutes for the Toronto Maple Leafs right now alongside Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, you are likely not going to be pushed out of that 5-on-5 lineup, because they have clearly determined that you are an important enough offensive piece to this team that you need to be quarterbacking power play 1, not even just seeing power play 2 minutes, but straight up quarterbacking power play 1. And I think that they see that as so much offensive upside to what he can bring, obviously on the power play, but also to a 5-on-5 game. And they clearly see this guy as being more important than Dermott here.
Definitely. If that's any indication of what's to come, we're going to see Dermott sitting on the bench with Bogosian back. Like I said, I think most people that follow the team would give that pretty much snap answer to your question. And it's unfortunate because I love Travis Dermott. I hope everything works out. Maybe you're going to be signing him. Newmarket boy, exactly. So definitely don't sleep on Dermott. But just for this near little stretch, I think we do give the edge to the young kid. And when you see those power play units, they're going more balanced. I love the blue line look with Sandin being the one that's included in the mix. I would maybe question having Thornton up in there. We've mentioned the first power play unit hasn't been always consistently great. And I think that Thornton is a historic passer, definitely. But you have Marner out there to do that exact job. So at that point, Thornton's an in front of the net decoy, which I don't hate. But someone I think that I want to give a little bit of a nod to in terms of the lineups at 5-on-5 as well. Spezza, I think he needs a little bit more ice time, and I think he can bite off a bigger role when we consider this as playoffs. I think that he is someone that maybe you consider letting into that lineup over Thornton and on the first power play. Because if you're going to have an older veteran in the lineup, not needing to do a lot other than be smart in front of the net, I almost would rather that be Spezza. I like his puck retrieval a little bit better. That first lineups really struggled to hold the puck in the end at times. There's a little bit of benefit here. I don't know what would you say about a proposal like that?
Well, I think that's a good teaser for the power play video coming tomorrow, where we'll break down that whole power play in tomorrow's video, and we'll dive right into that. But like, as far as Spezza's role in that line, in that 5-on-5 lines go, how necessarily would you see them playing this out differently? And I'll just break down the lines really quickly here again for people, and then we can kind of dive into that. So Hyman, Matthews, Marner, first line. Foligno, Tavares, Nylander, Mikheyev, Nash, Kerfoot, and then that fourth line, Thornton, Spezza, Simmons. So you think Spezza should be playing more of a role here? What exactly would you want to see?
I would start the playoffs with Nash as centering the fourth line. I would do that, and I would let Spezza play up on the third. I think Spezza's right now just more in tune with the team. I think if you're going to give one guy more minutes, I'd rather it be him. Let Nash get his feet underneath him a little bit. Let him show you what he's got versus just banking on it being there. I think Spezza's just earned this, especially when you look at how he went out last year in the playoffs. This guy really, really wants it. And I think that, again, we haven't seen anything really from Nash yet. So to bump him down to the fourth line to help him settle in and bump Spezza up, I wouldn't hate it.
Here's going to be my counter to that. Personally, I think that 3 and 4, those lines, will almost play the same amount of minutes. I think that the amount of time that those two lines are on the ice, just the way I'm kind of envisioning Keefe playing it, will be equivalent to each other. I don't think the third line is a third line, and air quotes third line. I don't see it necessarily being like, oh, that's our third line. I think we have a bottom 6. And I think that fourth line is intact the way it is because Thornton and Spezza have played together for the majority of the last half of the season since Thornton's return. And I think they've built up good chemistry with each other and good repertoire in that sense, and knowing how each other plays, that I think that I wouldn't break those two guys up. I see what you're saying in terms of Spezza getting more minutes, but I just think that moving him up to that third line, again, air quotes, with Mikheyev and Kerfoot is a position that he hasn't necessarily been in this year. He hasn't played with those two guys yet. And if you're going to put someone in a position of, I haven't played with these guys yet, then I would rather it be a guy who hasn't been even in the lineup with the Leafs yet, and Riley Nash, and give him that opportunity, and give Kerfoot and Mikheyev the opportunity to try to get used to him, and then leave that fourth line in that place that it is so that they can keep their chemistry going. Otherwise, you're almost going to have two lines trying to figure each other out as these playoffs start.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid point. You don't want to blow up chemistry at the right time. Definitely don't want to do that. I am thinking if in a hypothetical you were to, though, however, and it could work out. Again, I'm not saying this is necessarily the managerial move. I'm saying that, well, it's personally something I'd like to see because I think Spezza just deserves the chance to play up a little bit. If they are getting the same minutes, though, You got to remember, you have Thornton and Spezza playing on the same line.
Mm-hmm.
There's some offensive chemistry there, yes, but if you're hauling the same minutes in playoff games, especially if we're going into overtime, where it's going to be 5-on-5 full periods, at that point, I think you do need to use your fourth line almost a little bit. You need to have more legs there, and Nash would give you more legs. Simmons, obviously really quick, but Thornton and Spezza alongside each other, and if you're playing them like a third line in playoff games, that line might be a little bit slow. That's another thing to look at, but still, I get what you're saying from a chemistry standpoint, and for those reasons, I think we'll see them stay as is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I also think that one thing that we've both said is that Sheldon Keefe is very creative, I guess, with his lines. And he's not afraid to move guys around as the need be. Like when he sees a scenario of what this guy's going, that guy's not, he's not afraid to mix the lines up mid-game and make those adjustments. So I think that he would be willing, especially come in overtime scenario, to move guys around and just give guys who are going the opportunity. Like, to be honest, and this is just, it's not even like a prediction necessarily or like a hot take, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if in the playoffs you're looking at, oh, this is 15 minutes into overtime and now all of a sudden Thornton, Matthews, and Marner are a line out there. Just because Sheldon Keefe sees Thornton's buzzing and he throws him up on that line. Or maybe he sees that an opportunity to put Simmons there to bang some bodies and give Matthews and Marner space. Like, I can just see a lot of creativity being used by Sheldon Keefe along the way to move guys in and out. So I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about the legs of those guys, because I think that the bench management that's gone on all throughout this year has been a good indicator to us that he's very in tune with what's going on with his own with the guys on his team and how to utilize them to the best of their abilities. But I know I do agree with you that they could slow down, and if they're being used like that, especially like imagine we run into a scenario where it's a Tampa Columbus like 6 overtime game again, though that fourth line could be in shambles by the end. But that's a scenario that you come to when you get there. Like, you cross that bridge when you get to it.
Definitely. And another guy I was meaning to ask you about, because I'm looking through the extras here. It's Galchenyuk, Engvall, Brooks, Sabrin, Hollowell, Malgin. So one of the guys that stands out is just, complete raw energy, size. This guy, he brings the hustle, is Scott Sabrin. I don't think he's a player that you would ever want to see in your lineup during the playoffs, but is there a world where the Leafs are getting bullied so bad that they would dive into their lineup that low to pull up a guy like Sabrin just to ignite the lineup one night? Could it ever be that dark in Leafs Nation this year?
I mean, could he? Let's hope not. Let's hope we don't get to that point. I think that Galchenyuk, Engvall, and Brooks are the guys that are ahead of him on that list. Hollowell's the only extra defenseman that's listed there, and then Malgin being that final forward, he's lower down on that list. But I wouldn't say it could never happen.
Like a Capitals matchup, maybe you take out Kerfoot and just put some like lunatic in there, something like that.
But it could be a scenario too where like someone just gets run and someone pulls a Nazem Kadri and just buries somebody, and you're like, man, we don't want to waste Simmons and have Simmons take a suspy or do something insane like Sabrin, throw him in the lineup. Maybe you pull Bogosian from the game and you go 13-5, and then you let Sabrin just run wild for a couple of shifts and do somebody dirty. I don't know. I don't think the Leafs should ever get to that point, but it's
a ridiculous hypothetical. Yeah. Shouts out Scott Sabrin.
Yeah, it is kind of nice to have that option though. He's sitting there and he can go in if need be. So I don't know. It's not that bad. But how do you feel about Riley Nash jumping in here?
I think Nash is a guy who's got the veteran poise that, again, this team doesn't really have outside of this year. It's taken a long time to develop and a lot of different bodies to bring in to sort of get a cohesive unit that's going to be cool in common situations where we've just blown up before. So Riley Nash is another one of those guys. He's going to slot in low in the lineup. He can make an offensive difference. Another centerman too. You can never have too many of those, especially come playoff time. So I like it. It's just added to the Leafs' versatility, depth, and he's a leader. So I like it from all angles.
Yeah, this is a guy who's played over 600 NHL games, over 30 playoff games. He's a penalty killer. He brings speed and size to the lineup. I like it. I think that he's a smart veteran guy who's going to be able to fit in this lineup well. I think he's going to be able to adjust early. And the fact that he can kill penalties, take faceoffs, and he's fast and big. I think being fast will fit in with that line of Mikheyev and Kerfoot. That's going to be a quick line, hard to keep up with. And if he can bang bodies, that's something neither of those two guys, Mikheyev or Kerfoot, really do. So it's just a new element to there. And then it is just like a mix-up from, we had discussed a possible scenario, which I think is kind of funny because we really discussed Galchenyuk being as the guy who, if he's not on the second line, he's not in this lineup. And Hyman moving onto that first line really dictated that the outcome of the scenario for Alex Galchenyuk, because he'll be in the press box for the beginning of this playoffs at least. And then I would assume that if things are going well, he won't really get an opportunity to jump back in here. But Riley Nash going in there, I think it's a good move, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the lineup.
Yeah, I think he's the guy to slot in there because we've talked about it before. It's so tempting to put Galchenyuk on that third line there instead of Kerfoot. But it's not going to be a successful project when he's playing with Nash and Mikheyev. I'm talking about Galchenyuk. Galchenyuk will need to have too much puck possession at that point to be effective, unfortunately. And he's a really good player. He's an energy player. He's really someone you'd actually want to have in your lineup come playoff time. And I'm trying to find ways to mentally justify it. But no, if he's not going to be playing with that second unit where he's essentially a glorified garbage man, I think we should probably keep him in the depth.
Yeah, because I think that we both agreed that the way that it would shake out if he is in the lineup is that it would be Foligno on the first line, Galchenyuk playing on that left wing on the second line, and then Hyman would slot in on the right wing on the third line. Kerfoot moves over to center, and then you keep that fourth line intact of Thornton, Spezza, Simmons together. And I like this lineup the way it is. I honestly, if they decided to go with that Galchenyuk on the second line and move Foligno up, Hyman to the third, I'd have no problem with it. But I really do want to see what Nash can bring because I think he could be a more effective player than Galchenyuk all around, especially the fact that he kills penalties because that's not something Galchenyuk does. So it's just another added element that this guy brings to the lineup. But one more thing that I want to get into here, and it's just more of a comparison, and I think we've broken down this lineup for Thursday's game pretty well here. But last year, Goody, the Leafs lineup for Game 5 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. You want to hear what it was?
Hit me with it.
John Tavares, left wing. Matthews, center. Marner, right wing. Second line, Hyman, Nylander, Kapanen. Third line, Andreas Johnsson, Kerfoot, Mikheyev. Fourth line, Kyle Clifford, Pierre Engvall, Jason Spezza. And then the coveted defense, Morgan Rielly, Cody Ceci, Martin Marincin, Justin Hall, Travis Dermott, Tyson Barrie, Freddie Anderson in net. How much more confident do you feel about this year's lineup than what we went into Game 5 with last year?
Oh my God, we had just no variety in our lineup whatsoever. Still, everyone was a fairly solid player, but that was nearly the issue, is everyone had a similar skill set, a similar size, a similar outgo. We just have way too many playmaker, undersized players. And so subtracting out Johnsson, Kapanen, who honestly are hustle grit guys, they're just, we've upgraded size-wise and grit-wise. Maybe we've taken steps back with skill. I'd admit that. But at certain areas, we can afford to do that. That's not what's been stopping us. So I look back at this lineup. It's sad. Thank God we have some toughness now. Foligno kicked this lineup's ass, and now he's in the jersey. So there you go. That all worked out, came full circle. And I think it's time the Leafs kick it into gear. Looking back at this is just a horror show. Yeah.
I think that you look at the forwards here, and I don't really have any problem with the forwards. I think that it's not like a huge, oh my God, look how good their forwards are kind of lineup. But I wouldn't say oh, that's a bad forward group. You kind of do just have the same player on every single line. It's all fast, speed, skill guys. And now you now you have veteran presence, physical guys that can bring that and skill, guys who can kill penalties, guys who hit, guys who fight, guys you have a lot of variety within this lineup. But I think the biggest difference and the thing that was night and day for this season is the 6 defensemen that we skated last year versus the 6 defensemen we skated this year.
Dude, and more accurately, just not Marty Marincin. I totally forgot to shout out that guy. Holy
think about how far
Thank
down.
God he's not in the lineup.
Yeah, think about how far down he is on this depth chart, because think about the guys that I mentioned as the 6, right? We have Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hall, and then it was listed as Dermott Sandin, but we're both assuming Bogosian Sandin. So then you push Dermott to 7, Ben Hutton to 8, and then you have Mac Hollowell at 9. Nobody is even hearing of Martin Marincin, and it's
we're not in Marincin range.
No, he's somewhere on Robidas Island. He's been left to the dust, and I couldn't be more thankful. Like, he is done with, and we don't even have to worry about him. He's playing on the second pairing last year in Game 5. Like, that's terrifying. So the defense is night and day. I'm so happy with the defense that we've rolled out this year. I think they're way better. I think they are a strong, solid defense from top to bottom, and I think that we have a good shot at going on a run this year, Giddy.
I think so too, man, but I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we've been accustomed to as Leafs fans for as long as we've been following this team, but that's the way she goes. This is our breakdown of the Leafs lineups that they're going to be rolling out for Game 1 of the playoffs starting Thursday, May 20th at 7:30 p.m. against the Montreal Canadiens. Stay tuned to our channel. Like, comment, subscribe, ask us questions, whatever you want to do. We're going to have another video coming out tomorrow breaking down the power play, and then hopefully Wednesday, the night before the playoffs, we'll do a playoff eve preview. Maybe we'll answer your questions about the playoffs, give our predictions, people we think are going to be X factors going into this series, and then we hope to see you guys following along the page, and more good things coming to you.